Obviously, exciting day for Bengal football. We feel like we've signed 6 guys that we really like, and obviously some of that is relying on some of the guys that are here on staff. And, I think, a lot of credit goes to Coach Mafia and Coach Howd and a lot of the due diligence of working and the work that they put into to land these guys. I'm going to talk about 5 of these guys today. One of them he is signed with us, but we're going to wait until a little bit later time to release that. So with that being said, we signed Julian Juice Mason, who is what we would say is really an all-around receiver. He came to camp here this past summer. They really liked him. Thought he was a very physical receiver. And again, just kind of brings when you talk about that wideout position, a good blocker, a solid pass catcher, does all the little things that you would like from the receiving position. So we're excited about him. Curtis and Hunter Hill, the brothers Hill, as we say. Both of these guys are really intriguing. I got a chance to spend some time with them here last week when I was here. These guys, what impresses me most about them is they're good students, very diligent. These guys are both wrestlers. I think that some of these guys that I've recruited in the past in my career that have a wrestling background, just because of the leverage hand placement, have had really high success. And so that was very intriguing to me. I was very pleased in visiting with them and talking about that. Both of them have played offense and defensive line. And so we're really excited about them. And the unique thing is you look at these guys, they all come from the same high school in Graham-Kapowson. I mean, it's a 3A program that's moved to the 4A and is starting to dominate at that level out of Tacoma. So these guys have a history with one another. A lot of these guys have played on the same Pop Warner 8th grade team, went to high school. So there's some continuity. Anytime you're trying to build a program, when you can establish that early, it gives you a chance for a lot of success down the road. So the 2 guys that we'll talk about here, Tua Lili, I want to make sure I got that right, out of Lincoln High School, was his league defensive MVP. Very powerful young man that has been, as Coach Hout said, hitting those 5:30 workouts for a long time. And I really like this guy. When he came on his visit, not a big talker, but when you watch his film, very active, very physical player. And so we're excited about him. I'm really fired up about him. And then Bryler Shirtliff, obviously out here out of Idaho, local kid that is a tremendous athlete. The thing I think that's most impressive about him is that he's previously played 3 sports, and a multi-sport athlete, which I love to see. And it's been really good. Doesn't know if he's gonna play track or run track, in the spring. Maybe he's gonna focus on getting ready for football, but he's ranked number 1 in 4 events. So, we'd love to see him do it, but I certainly understand that. And then they've had great team success there with 3 state championships. So obviously, again, I told you guys last week, we'll make a huge effort to get into the state of Idaho and recruit kids. So to have him sign with us is a big deal.
How much film were you able to watch on these guys?
You know what? I actually watched every one of these guys. So not a ton,
Sure.
Just with the time, the way it's been the last few days. But I was able to look at a decent amount of all of them. So.
How familiar were you with that Graham program in Tacoma? I know it's a top 30 program in the country.
Yeah, you know what? So my wife is from Puyallup, which is right there and, just outside of Tacoma. So I've got a decent background of Washington high school football. And so obviously, I know some guys that are up there working with different, trainers and things of that nature. Some young men that played for me at Arizona. So I've got a decent bit of knowledge with that area and was really excited to know that we were getting some kids from that program.
Were you able to meet all 5, technically 6 of the signees on their visits last weekend?
I was. So I sat down with the families on Saturday, I think.
Okay.
one of the days they were here, I sat down with the families and visited with them. And then a couple of them I met at a little bit later date. When we actually went to to Applebee's later. The next day, I was able to meet with a couple more. And so then at that point, I was able to have met with the whole group.
What do you tell them? I mean, you've been hired for like 2 days. These guys didn't commit to you. I mean, what did you try and say or tell them?
Well, I just think and really it's not about what I can say, right? You're not going to get that in 10, 15, 20 minutes, right? So it's really just, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is my vision for what we're going to do here. But, you'll hear me say this a million times. As long as I'm here, it's about relationships. And so, I understand that you were committed to this university, so we're committed to you. We're going to build a relationship so that we establish that trust and you understand where I'm coming from. But these are kind of some of my main expectations of the program.
Mm-hmm.
And based on the people that I've talked to, the coaches and a little bit of people outside the program, you guys fit that narrative of what we want.
Yeah. I mean, only signing 5-6 guys kind of leaves you with a lot of room open for that February signing period. What ways are you looking to attack that? More JUCO, transfer portal, still sign some high school kids that you have your eye on?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've got a handful of guys already, obviously with my connections in Arizona that I thought of, like as soon as I knew I was going to get this job, like it's go time now. And then obviously once I put my staff in place, we do think that there'll be some additions from the junior college circuit as well. And we've got to assess our needs. I still am getting brought up to speed on that as we speak. So once we do that here over the next week to 10 days, we'll have a better idea of where we're going and specifically what talent we're going to recruit.
How many guys can you bring in February?
You know what? That's something that I don't know yet. I know that's, obviously I just got in here today and that's something I had Coach Hout prepare for me. And I'm going to visit with him tomorrow morning about that, exactly where our numbers are. I do know we have a decent amount that we will be able to bring in, especially having some of our kids gone into the portal.
Kind of going off of that last question, with like more kids in the portal now more than ever, what's kind of your 2 cents on grabbing those kids from the portal or starting with those kids coming out of high school?
Well, I think at the end of the day, you build a program with a solid foundation. And I think that has to be the nuts and bolts have to come from the high school ranks. I think that, when you look at the portal or junior college football, as we mentioned, you see where can you get better immediately, right? And football is not a game of quick fixes. It's not, we've got to build the foundation here and we've got to grow the foundation. We've got to develop players. That's going to be our mantra for the most part, but we will look at, a handful of kids every year that can come in and help us immediately, whether that be through the portal or the junior college circuit, but we will definitely address those needs with those players.
This is so weird with how the calendar shakes out. You get hired, you got 5 days before the signing. Like, are you a fan of the early signing day?
I'm not opposed to it. I think when it was set up originally, obviously the portal wasn't in play. So I think that the portal has just added such a different element to recruiting. And so I like the early signing day, but I just, I think that, some high school kids are getting hurt because of the portal and everybody's, again, they're trying to find guys that can help them immediately, right? We say that there's no quick fix in football, but we're all looking for the quick fix, So, I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth. I think that, again, it's based upon how we'll develop our program here. But again, if we can find a handful of guys that can help us, certainly we're going to do it.
I know they've, there's been some conference commissioners talking about, maybe redoing the whole recruiting calendar just with everything, all the new changes and stuff. Like, if you were named like the king of college football for a day, you got to reshape the recruiting calendar. Like, ideally, how would you like to see it?
Well, I think, that maybe having an early signing period, like in the summertime, would be something that I would look at, because now you can start bringing there's still juniors, right, going into their senior year. You could bring those guys on visits after April 15th, all the way up until the end of June before it goes dead. So to me, like, if you brought kids on the official, why not go ahead and sign those guys at the end of June? And then, kind of everyone takes their vacations in July, be dead like it is. And then, you could debate and you can go different ways with this on the second signing period. I think that some of the talk, right, is because of the changes in the coaching world after the season. Should you have the second one, right where it is in February, which would make sense to me. So,
Yeah.
and again, I don't know if that's the right answer, but certainly just thinking about it, it's something that we obviously need to take a look at.
There's still schools, I mean, that haven't hired a coach, which is kind of crazy considering they're signing a class right now. Do you feel like you've kind of, you can get a lot done in these 5 days and in terms of at least evaluating who you're bringing in?
Well, you know what? I mean, again, it's yes and no. You know, I'm relying on the guys that are on the staff right now to give me that information. Obviously, I've watched them, but at this point, you know, the right thing is to do is these kids committed to Idaho State University.
Mm-hmm.
We have to honor that. You know what I mean? And so, like, that's the right thing to do. How they fit our program is going to be based on what we do from the schematic standpoints. That's our job to figure that out. You know, the best coaches are the guys that find that, you know, take the players and put them where they're best suited to help us win. So I think I've got a leg up certainly, and then being able to get out in January and start getting the ball rolling, you know, a little bit faster certainly helps. And you know, obviously being here this week to achieve that is very beneficial. But you know, right now you still feel no matter what, I'm drinking out of a fire hose.
Yeah.
When we kind of talked last week, you know, you kind of said that you were really only kind of familiar with the quarterback situation going on here. Still learning the team and everything. Is that QB spot something that you're going to be looking for when you start recruiting in January?
Well, I think, you know what, the first thing I would say on that is once I get my offensive coordinator in place, we'll talk about that. You know, that's the one thing you're going to see with me is I'm going to be involved in all 3 phases, but I'm not going to micromanage my guys. Like, I'm going to have input. I'm going to sit in on those meetings and be involved, but I'm going to run the program. You know, I expect my offensive coordinator to be the head coach of the offense and my defensive coordinator to be the head coach of the defense. We'll sit down and talk about things we need to do, what we need to get better at. My special teams coordinator to run the special teams. But I want those guys to, you know, you win with people bought in and no more important guys than your D coordinator, offensive coordinator, and special teams guys. So they've got to have the buy-in. And so that'll be, you know, when he gets here, we'll talk about that, look at the quarterbacks, and then see where we go from there.
Have you seen it all? Like, this is the first time people are really recruiting with the NIL deal in place. Just have you seen that affect recruiting at all for you so far?
No, I mean, not so much. I think when everybody made a big, you know, deal out of the NLI, excuse me. But I don't think it was, you know, certain players that hit, certain programs that hit, right? But I don't know that it's had the ripples through college football that everybody thought it would. I just know it's certainly benefited, you know, a handful of guys at certain schools, obviously. I think it's a great opportunity if you can make it work for you as an individual, for your program. But I don't think in the end that it's been as big of effect on the players as I think initially everybody thought it would be.
The size profile in terms of like linemen, do a lot of these guys kind of fit what you want in the trenches?
You know what? And here's the one thing I vowed to myself about when I took this job is, you know, it's about studying guys that have been successful in this league. You know, I think so many times we get caught, all of us, you know, and I'm guilty of this, even though I'm going to say it, is we're all looking for that, you know, 6'4", 6'5" offensive tackle, you know, or guard. And instead of maybe taking the 6'1.5", 6'2" kid, that's a really good football player. And I'm going to do as much as I can to make sure that our coaches, that we are recruiting good football players. I think you win with good football players. Now, we obviously have to have some of those guys, you know, because length and the physical ability is going to show up, obviously, especially with some of these teams we're going to play in our own league. But I think sometimes we look away, like on this kid, oh, he's he might be just a little bit too slow, or he's not as tall as we'd like. And then we end up playing against him. Someone took a chance on him and he ends up beating you. So the main focus for us is going to be really good football players, and then we'll build out from there. Is
that one of the things that you can take advantage of at an FCS program like Idaho State? Maybe the kids that probably should be Pac-12 players, but they're like, they don't have, 1 or 2 inches. And it's like, okay, we'll take the chance on them, and we can take that risk a little bit more.
I think it is. I think it's a great point. I think at the end of the day, we were talking about that as we drove up from Salt Lake today. And that's the fine line, right? Is if you get your program rolling enough, can Can you still a few of those kids that might end up in a group of 5, and how do we see them? How do we develop them? And I think that goes back to, hey, again, it's good football players. And I think that that'll end up showing up in our program eventually.
Thank you.
Eric or Jerry, any questions?
Yeah, Coach. Curious about what kind of timetable you have in your mind for getting your coordinators in place and what kind of factors will influence that.
Well, first of all, hi, Jerry. How are you? Yeah, good question. One of them is working to be in place. We just got to go through the HR process, and before I can really elaborate on him specifically. So once the paperwork is processed and we do things, want to make sure we make everybody happy and do things the right way. We'll be rolling with him. Our offensive coordinator, I'm in the middle of talking to a couple of guys, a very short list. There's a couple other guys that I want to visit with, and I'm hoping to have it done here in the next week or so, ish. 7 to 10 days would be my goal, and that's the time frame, because I would like to have my staff in place and everybody here, shortly after the new year, so we can get rolling at a high speed.
How soon are you going to be able, I don't know, are you in Pocatello for good right now?
I'm going to be here for about a week, and then I'm going to go home and spend the holidays with my wife and kids, or I wouldn't make it back. But I'm going to do that. And then once I do that, I'll be back here late December and get rolling early January, and we'll get going. I probably won't have a day off until the summer after that. So it's going to be fast and furious, but excited to get to work.
Well, just want you to know I'm looking forward to working with you.
I appreciate it. Feeling is mutual. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, I was just wondering, so I know you've been on the job a little less than a week. What do you know about the current recruits that were announced today with ISU?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I've had a chance to look at the recruits, watch a little film on all of them. They were here over the past weekend, and I was able to sit down with all of them at some point and just kind of, hey, this is who I am. We didn't get too in depth, but just, again, building those relationships. They were committed here before I got here. We want to do the right thing and honor that. But this is a good group of players. We like these guys, and we're excited about them. So I've got I got enough on them to be dangerous. I wish I obviously had time to watch more film, but I've got to see enough, and I feel good about the guys we signed today.